Thank you guys very much for having me here. I'm very excited to come here and share a little bit about my experience and share a little bit of time and space with people who are out to help others in this world, people who need support. And so I feel very fortunate to be able to be here with you today. As you heard, my name is Yam Cooper. I'm originally from Israel, so the name Yam in Hebrew it means the sea, or like the ocean. I'm actually not a very good swimmer, but that's okay. And here, many times people, because of the English or Canadian accent, they say Yam or Yam. So I've had many different iterations of my name over the years. I don't mind. I didn't used to like yams at all, but I recently found a really good recipe. So that has really completed for me a missing puzzle piece in my identity. Now that I've been able to do that, so if anybody needs a good yam recipe, please let me know. So as was said, I'm an artist, I'm a musician, I play many different types of instruments that I taught myself how to play. I was at one point in my life when I was in high school, I went to an art school, and I was actually not accepted into the music major. This was an interesting point in my life, because the reason I was not accepted is because I had never studied notation or how to read notes on purpose. Because the way I played, the way I interacted with the music was very spontaneous, very improvisational, and very natural, very intuitive. And I didn't feel that reading notation was something that I found fun to do. So that was an interesting thing, because I faced some discrimination from the music teachers because I did not read notation. It was almost like I was not a musician because I could not speak or write the same written language, even though music was invented long before notation was. So over the years, I actually experienced many different types of discrimination. Sometimes because of where I'm from, sometimes because of things I did, sometimes because of things that people thought. And I've also witnessed discrimination of other people. And that my different experiences, which I want to share with you a bit today, are what in part informed my experience and inspired me to create this book that I'm going to be reading to you a little bit from. It's called The Story of Bill and His House on the Hill. I illustrated, designed, wrote, gave birth to this creation. It came out in 2014, in the summer of 2014, so it's my first book. I'm really excited about that. And so that's one of the things I'm going to be doing today. I want to share with you a few anecdotes of my experience since coming to Canada at the young age of 11. I'm 23 today. One of my most vivid memories is getting off the plane and feeling very cold, even though it was July. So Canada introduced me to this concept of being able to have sun but no warmth. And I'm still getting used to it, even though now I can wear a t-shirt in 0 degrees. When I first came, I had to wear like 5 layers for 0 degrees. So I've come a long way. Another vivid memory I have, which I think was one of the things that planted a seed for me that led to the creation of this book. And I feel that it's relevant to the things that you guys are doing here. I was browsing, I don't know, it was like a pharmacy type place where they have the magazines at one place in the store. And I remember vividly going to one of those magazines and just looking through it. I was still learning English. I could speak and carry on conversation, but I'm not as good. I wasn't as good as I am now in the language. And I remember a comic strip in one of these magazines. I don't know which one it was. And the comic strip, the title of the comic strip was How to Help a Disabled Person in a Wheelchair. And the way it went is it showed a person in a wheelchair riding along or wheeling along a sidewalk, and suddenly one wheel slips off the curb, and it results in the person in the wheelchair flipping to the side and flipping over. At the same time, a person walking on the street that was illustrated in this comic strip coming closer, pretending to bend over to help, and then in the final comic strip, kicking the person. I remember that this was a very, very hard thing for me to see as a kid, coming from a place where war is not a joke, where violence is not a joke. It was hard for me to see that a culture or a country in which people have the good fortune of living in a place that they do not have to be threatened, or they're not threatened for their life, that they chose to use violence as a form of entertainment. Of course, that's not everybody, but the fact is it was published in a magazine and I didn't feel comfortable with that. Fast forward to high school, in grade 10 or 11, in this high school, art school that I was, I ended up being a drama major. I also do acting. And I decided to write a monologue. We had a task to write a monologue about our experience. And I wrote a monologue that described what it was like to come to Canada as a teenager, as a young kid, and growing up as a teenager in a place where I had very different points of view than other people. I did not care about shopping, sports, video games, and many things that, and I also didn't know almost anybody. Many of the people I was with knew each other from grade 1, so I had a very, very different experience. And I decided in this monologue to describe this experience that I, as a kid, saw in this magazine, this comic strip of helping a person with a disability. And one of the things that I think will remain with me for the rest of my life was that when I was on stage in character describing this comic strip and what happened in the comic strip of the person kicking the person in a wheelchair, I was in a theater. Just to give you an idea, it was a professional theater in a school. It's a rare thing where a school has a professional theater, 308 seats in the theater. It was fully packed with kids who were in grade 9, 10, 11 and some teachers. When I described this example of the comic strip and the man kicking the other person, everybody laughed. I'm not sure if the teachers laughed. I don't think they did, but the kids, probably 80% of them laughed. It was a huge, overwhelming laughter. And until the day I die, I'll remember this as one of the things that reminded me that we need to raise children with more compassion. And that what television is doing and what movies are doing and video games are doing and the competitive mindset is doing, in many cases, is not encouraging a compassionate society of people who are able to tell when something really is funny and when something isn't. And to me, it was shocking because, and I think I even took a moment on stage of silence to kind of recover and get back into character and finish the monologue. And so that was another experience that informed me that I want to create something that will help to reach children at a young age, to help them with compassion. Another few things over time with school, my parents were very supportive. One of the reasons we moved here was so that I didn't have to go to the army. My parents gave blood, sweat, tears, mostly blood to the country, and they felt that we wanted to help the world in a different way, not just by providing another soldier. And so I'm very grateful for them that they allowed me and my 2 siblings to not go through that experience, which is, I would say, can be mind-breaking. And we're able to do things like write these books and other things. So I was transferred through about 6 different schools since I came to Canada. My parents were very supportive, and in each school that I went to, there was something that I experienced that we felt was not supportive to growing into a healthy, balanced person, and so we moved. Sometimes there was bullying by teachers. Sometimes there was sexual harassment by teachers. Sometimes there was bullying by kids. I witnessed and protected kids from bullies. I tried to befriend the bullied children, only to sometimes be bullied by those children because of their pain. So I saw that there was a lot of need for something. I'm not sure what exactly it is at the time, but I knew that it has to start early. Because I saw that I'm talking to people my age and they have no idea what I'm talking about. Like the thing I have the most in common with them was that we both speak English and we know about the weather. I had nothing, I did not want to talk about, okay, oh, how many people did you kill in this video game and who cares who won in hockey? Like, this is not something that I felt was giving depth to a friendship that I wanted to create. I wanted to talk about what can we do to help each other? What can we do to help world peace? What can we do to become better brothers and sisters? I hugged my brother as he came with my mother to pick me up from school, or I kissed my brother or my mother, and this was considered a weird thing. Like, what teenager in their right mind kisses their sibling, hugs their mother in front of their peers? Come on. I mean, oh my God, right? But the killing is okay. Talking about that in public is okay. So I felt constantly that there was something that I wanted to help change in the society I was at, and I saw that it's something that is worldwide. There is something about compassion, there is something about brotherhood, and it comes in different formats in different countries. For example, people are very direct when they talk to each other. So you waste less energy sugarcoating. It can also be hard to take. So in that regard, in a way, it can be easier to communicate with people in Israel. Here things are more gentle and you have to be more delicate and to kind of weave around things. At the same time, Israel is such a high tension place that people have killed each other arguing over a parking spot. It's also a place where you cannot feel completely safe because there are explosives being planted in everyday objects. And so even until today, when I see a bottle of water on the floor, my first instinct is to give it a wide berth, because kids who have kicked water bottles in the street in Israel have received dynamite in their face. And so, I don't mean to depress you, because people like you are what gives me hope. People who get up and say, okay, we're going to create a space for people, we're going to create a space of help and of support. This is the kind of spirit that needs to spread. And so I commend you for that. I want to also describe to you another thing, is that I want to go back to the experience I had with the music teacher for a moment. I am very glad I didn't go to the music major. The reason is that I felt that I felt later that if I would have gone into that music major, I would have actually received a lot of indoctrination of what it is to play music. And so today I feel that I'm a much more free musician as a result, partly, of not having gone through a music program. And so, even though music is a very freeing thing, I feel that in many cases, human beings find a way of boxing things up, even when something is free, when something is supposed to be enjoyable. And so one of the things I did was co-found this society called Happy Hive Creative Learning Society, in which we try to create programs for children that do the exact opposite of what I just described, which is give people or kids experiences that help them develop without putting them in boxes. On the contrary, giving them skills on how to go about in life, identify boxes and break them if they need to in order to achieve their goals. If we are to survive on this planet for another, I would say, 200 years maybe at least, then we need people who are able to think outside the box. Even though it's a very cliched term, it still stands. So, without further ado, I would like to read to you a part of this book. I'm going to grab that quick drink.
Sit at the chair now?
It's okay, thank you. By the way, one part I forgot to say, you told me, Mariana, to introduce myself. I actually was invited, I wasn't really invited to speak here, I actually replied to an ad Mariana put that you guys needed a clown. But she told me I look too much like a gorilla. And really, if I show you my legs, you will believe her. So this is, I'm sorry I didn't warn you about this joke. So this book is called The Story of Bill and His House on the Hill, and it was an interesting experience to create it, and I would like to read to you an excerpt. Our story begins with a man named Bill, who lived in a house on the top of a hill. The hill was tall, overgrown with green grass, and the house was red, with a doorknob of brass set in the door of Bill's lovely home, which was rather large, so it allowed him to roam freely in the top floor and also the bottom, all through winter, spring, summer, and autumn. But there was one little problem with Bill's homely house, which in the middle of the night would cause him to rouse. In one single part of that adorable dwelling were installed rafters that creaked louder than yelling. Whenever the wind blew even the slightest breeze, Bill would wake up to creaks that would rattle the trees. A side note, by the way, about Bill's house. This is why he never saw even one mouse. The mice could not stand that horrible noise, so they packed up and left. They had no choice. Even cats were never seen nearby. Those creaky meows made them run away and cry. Frogs, birds, insects, or deer, no animals to that house came near. For that matter, humans as well never set a foot there, for when they heard the creaks, they shed all their hair. He once invited a friend to stay the night, but at 3 a.m. the rafters creaked and her hair fell from the fright. She ran away, rubbing her bald head, and that was the last time someone slept in the guest bed. But Bill did not mind the creaks one bit. He heard them as music, and would often just sit, listening to the song of the creaking rafters. It was easier for him to fall asleep after. There was one other reason humans rarely visited Bill. He was born with green hair, as green as the hill. In fact, he could never get a regular haircut. The barber's scissors would snap dead. He had to use a lawnmower to cut the hair on his head. And it wasn't just regular hair, but grass that was living. Yes, I know, very rare, but I tell you, he had to water it twice a day and give it plenty of sun and lots of fresh air. Why did it matter that his hair was grass, you say? Well, keep on reading, you'll find out right away. People, they did not like that Bill's head was the color of sod. They thought it was bizarre, creepy, and completely odd. This scared away most visitors, men, women, girls, or boys, and any who weren't scared stayed away from the noise. He couldn't meet people in cafes or public places because others around laughed or pointed or made nasty faces. Watch out for a mold skull, he'll give you maggots and fungus. Drive it away, there is a demon among us. So Bill tried to fix the creaking rafters, but nothing altered. They kept creaking and croaking, and the creaks never faltered. He called up the local handyman to come and take a look, but the minute Bill opened the door, the man completely shook. "Who do you think you are calling me here?" he flared. "What do you mean?" Bill asked. "You have green hair!" He took off down the hill, shaking his fist in the air, completely taken aback by Bill's head of green hair. With the next handyman, the same thing occurred. "I will not serve a grass-growing curd." He tried different methods and ways to conceal. A box, a wig, a planter-shaped hat costume that looked pretty real. But no matter the costume or hat or disguise, nothing could outsmart the prejudice of those guys. He tried reasoning, pleading, increasing the pay. He even cut the grass really short one day. He invited one over when he wasn't home and gave him details and instructions by phone. But when the man reached the house, he refused and said, "Hey, this house belongs to that dumb algae head." Whatever he tried, nothing succeeded. Costumes did not give the normalcy he needed. Or grass would peek out, giving him away, or a creak would dehair them to everyone's dismay. Shouts of "The spore face is dangerous!" rang in the air, and the hill became covered with handyman's hair. So, this is an excerpt of this book. How it continues is that Bill, our grass-headed hero/anti-hero, goes on a journey of trying to make friends and is faced with various such obstacles on the way. And no matter what happens throughout the book, he perseveres and finds a creative way to overcome it. As you saw with the costumes, with trying different things, and he never ever gives up. And what ends up happening is that he meets a critter with a disability, certain disability, that prevents communication in the regular way. And Bill, out of perhaps desperation, perhaps innovation, perhaps both, creates a language that is possible, that is able to be perceived by this critter that cannot perceive communication in the usual way. And this language that he creates that bridges creatures is something that ends up being used by more people, connecting them through the heart and bypassing discrimination. In this book, I basically offer ideas to children and to families and to teachers and whoever is reading it, that there is a possibility to find a universal language that is one of respect, of humility, of fun, and of laughter, and of respect, which I think I said, but it's worth saying twice. It's just a matter of finding it and being able to give up on our own prejudice. And in this book, I also try to raise compassion for every person who has ever felt different, no matter if there was a physical manifestation of that difference or not. Whether somebody has a different color of skin, a different way of talking, what is termed by society as a disability, whether it's internal or external. In Israel, one of my best friends was a child who was half paralyzed by stale medication. My father is dyslexic. My father has a bowel disease. There are so many different expressions of people. And one thing that I try to bring in this book is that with Bill, the grass-headed man, which is in a way a difference no one can have, it means that he is ultimately relatable to all, because you can place your own difference in place of that green hair. It's like a universal man or woman. And so this is actually a series in the making. I'm really excited about it. I feel that one of the things I try to do is raise compassion as well for people who have what is called a disability. And I feel very strongly from personal experience that people who have a certain disability, because they have to invest more energy and to do more in order to achieve the same things that a person without disability can do. For example, let's say somebody without an arm, in order to tie their shoes, has to find a new solution, just as a simple example. Because they are so-called disabled in that regard, I feel that in many respects they are much more enabled, because of the amount of skills, mind power, bravery, flexibility, versatility, and sheer awesomeness that they need to bring in order to do the same things that we do if we have just a disability that blocks us. Because of that, I feel that they are actually in many ways better equipped to handle different challenges and to handle things that come at them in life. And so actually, I wish that one day there will be a school in which people without a disability go to learn from people with disability how it is they do what they do. And I'm getting goosebumps as I say this, because I feel that, I mean, in this example, it's just about, it shows that when we have something that blocks us and we go beyond it to achieve something, it is something that, this is a skill that we need to teach every person, not just people who have to do it out of necessity. And this, I feel, is something that can really help future generations. Not to just say, oh, the people with disability, look at how amazing they are, like without legs, still walking on whatever mechanism they created. Like, we shouldn't leave this innovation to people who have to do it. We should get those people who have become skilled at it, maybe due to disability, maybe due to something else, and allow them to teach people who don't have that challenge, so that we can, as a whole in society, have more room for innovation in order to solve issues that come at us and we are already surrounded with. So, as a last note, I feel that I want to tell you again, thank you for being here and for being part of supporting people and supporting innovation and supporting humanity. And this book is available through me or in stores if you're interested. For me, the most important thing, if you're interested in supporting this project, is if you want to buy the book, or if you want to spread the word, or you have any connection to a school, to a teacher, to an investor, or to anybody who wants to support such a thing. Printing a full-color book is an immense cost that I was only able to do thanks to the help of a non-profit organization that is local actually here to Summerland, called Hilora Education Society. They were very generous in basically covering the production cost of this book, which I would not have been able to do. And so my ultimate goal is to have this as part of curriculum in schools, for example. And if you have any ideas, any feedback, any comments, questions, I'm completely open. And again, thank you very much for listening.
All could walk away and 5 million ideas now.
Thank you very
You're
much.
an inspiration to everybody. Good luck.
Thank you.